Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. I think it's that time of the year where we look at our living spaces, our workspaces, and say, yeah, it's time for a change. You know, it's spring. Let's look at something different, especially if you come home every night and you walk through the door and you don't have that feeling of, I'm home. Yeah, this feels good. It should feel that way. It should align with you and your taste and the energy that goes along with that. We're going to talk with a fantastic, prominent designer who has lots of ideas, lots of experience in creating your living space the way you want it to be. Marcia Moore joins us on the program. Welcome. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Steve.
I'm looking at your background. I love analyzing things and I love placement. And it's just, for me, I love the file cabinets. I love the color and just the way you place. I knew you were a designer. I didn't even have to know that you were. I just looked there and I see it. Yeah.
Yeah. My office has to be energizing for me so that I can be creative, keep focused on it. So yeah.
I'm glad you said that.
Orange is my favorite color too.
Love it. We're all different in terms of what motivates us. For you, it's got to be something that energizes you. Others may be more strategic look, some may be logical. When you first work with somebody, do you go deep into psychologically figuring out what really makes them tick, what they're all about?
I wouldn't say I go deep into it with them. I don't ask a lot of psychological questions. It doesn't take long to understand who a person is because I see it in the way they live. I see it in the way they dress, how they talk, what they're, if they've got kids, if they've got a spouse. So it's kind of an intuitive thing that just happens at the beginning.
Gotcha. Yeah, I didn't mean, we're going to like profile them like the FBI. Yeah. But
I am a marriage counselor many times in my job. So.
Then there's that. But I have to believe in doing what you do and having done it successfully for so long that you got to read on somebody. You've kind of picked up on who they are, what makes them tick, to better understand them, first of all, but also to figure out what's going to translate well for their style and all of that. When somebody hires you, what is the main motivation? Why should we hire a designer? Let's go there.
When people hire us, it's because they have a pain. The pain is my house doesn't function well, or I hate the way it looks. It's never been me, or we're empty nesters now and we don't have kids. So there's all kinds of different pains, but there's a reason why they need a designer. I many times get hired by someone who's done a project on their own and they were okay with it. But when I come in, they say, well, I did this and I wish we had done this. And, this looks okay, but it's not exactly what I wanted. So this time around, I knew I needed a designer because I didn't do it well enough on my own.
Gotcha. I have to tell you, I'm digressing here, but I'm so jealous of your open window. I'm in a studio office building here. I can't open the windows. Drives me crazy.
Yeah, it is nice. We have them open many times as soon as the weather.
Absolutely. So and I know that when you work with somebody, and we're going to, in these podcasts, get into trends and really look at some of the projects in your portfolio, maybe look at what you did, where you went from this to that. But how would you describe your design style? Everybody's different. You'll do whatever somebody wants, but we all have our own affinity of what we personally like. What would you say your style is?
My personal style is very eclectic. I like a lot of different things. I tend more contemporary than traditional, but I definitely mix and match. I use a lot of things from around the world. It's very worldly kind of the design aesthetic, and it has to be fun. I don't think design should be too serious.
Does that come down to not just the colors, but things that are within the design?
Yeah, it's a little bit of everything. The colors, I love color. I use a lot of color personally. Some people don't like a lot of color, and I'm good with that when I'm working with somebody who doesn't. But the colors, the kind of fabrics I use, very textile, fabrics that are fun to touch. the look of furniture, the style of furniture, the kind of lighting I use. It's everything. Everything has to blend together perfectly.
And you do that, and you do it well. I have to tell you, I'm looking at some of the projects that you've done in the portfolio. Right away, I go to resort living.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I
That's
will.
a couple. Yeah, it's a couple who just moved out of a two-bedroom apartment. This is their first home. They both work from home, so they wanted it to feel like they were in a resort all the time. So that's what we did.
Yeah. And I want to be on that couch right now, and I can relate to it. I sold a house about a year and a half ago, and my renovation was a lot of the stuff was already done, but I redid the entire backyard, just
Mhm.
literally, and made it
Mhm.
like a resort, right down to palm trees, pool, like
Nope.
all of that. I'm going to be honest. I'm always transparent. I managed the project myself. I did some of the work, but just manage it gave me an ulcer. In that, I'm
It's
not
very
kidding.
stressful.
I'm being
It is
serious.
very stressful.
I
Yeah.
was I was working in radio at the time. I still do, but I was working morning radio. I had done it for decades, but now I'm getting up, at 3:45 a.m., then coming home, then worrying about the pavers, then worrying about this and where's the wiring for that and
Mhm.
all of it. Came out beautiful, but gave me an ulcer, so that's why I hire you. So,
Yep.
looking at this project, Resort Living, what type of home was this, and what were the changes that you made?
It was a brand new home. They had it built. It's pretty much a traditional home. You walk in, there's a living room on one side, dining room on the other, family room, and bedrooms upstairs. So we didn't get to, I wasn't involved in their building process, so I didn't get to put in a specific kind of flooring or cabinets or anything like that. But they came with virtually nothing. So we did every piece of furniture, all the paint, all the wall treatments, window treatments, lighting, everything we put in there, except for the kitchen cabinets and the bathroom cabinets. That's it.
Wow. Wow. What I love about it is, we say resort living. Many might think, well, I'm just going to do like seafoam and teal and all of that. No, no. You've done it in an amazing way of even some brown tones in one particular room. It almost looks like the study, if you will,
Hmm.
um, where it's off white furniture. There's it's almost like a cream colored wall with a little bit of maybe a beige grain tone to it. There's a rug in there, but it looks tropical, but it's not what you would think in terms of colors. Where the rest of us would say, "All right, let me get some teal going there. Let me get
Yeah. Yeah.
stereotypical tropical."
So
Yeah.
that was actually the dining room, and they didn't want a formal dining room. They wanted it to be a library. So we turned it into a library, and I wanted it to be a little calmer than the rest of the house. And it kind of started with trying to find bookcases. We did an IKEA hack. Actually, those are IKEA bookcases that I built the base and the top and made them into an actual unit that looks like it's built in, but it started with IKEA units.
Wow.
And then the flooring is a hide rug. So kind of that's a little more British West Indies tropical, where the rest of the house is more like a Florida tropical.
Yeah, yeah, and I've been in homes in Barbados and such where there's a lot of whitewashed wood and that kind of look. But yeah, stunning, stunning. I'm envious in a big way, and I'm manifesting. I will have a home that looks like that. My next home. I'm in between houses
Hey,
now.
just let me know when you're ready for me to help.
I was just going to say you're it. You've got my vision, and that's the first one I grab. But yeah, if that's not your thing, there's so much else you can do. I'm going to grab another one here, and I want to talk about trends at some point. But I'm just going to randomly pick anything. Traditional meets modern. That was in University City.
Right,
Okay.
right.
Interesting colors. Interesting. And there's one room that looks like is that orange?
In the living room where there's a fireplace in it.
I haven't gotten to the fireplace, but it almost looks like African. That's the first thing I get. I don't know. It almost looks like orange. Even the ceiling is orange.
Okay, so is that the barrel ceiling? The ceiling is curved?
The doorways are.
Yes, the ceiling is too. So it's a barrel ceiling. It's actually curved, and we did copper toned paint to make it look like it was a metal ceiling.
Okay, so I can't really see that. It almost looks like it's like the color of the walls. What color is on the walls?
Okay, I'm not following you.
This
I'm not
is
sure on the
traditional meets modern. That's the one. And there's a room with a fireplace, but you enter this weirdly rounded.
yeah. So you're entering it from another room there, and the
Correct.
chairs are the chairs are like a burnt orange.
In that particular room,
Uh huh.
yes, that is correct.
Okay. Yeah. So the walls are just an off-white color in
I,
that room.
I don't know why they look more like an orange. Interesting. Hmm.
Must be the color. So
Yeah.
there's two burnt orange chairs and sofas
And then there's
and the
other rooms that
fireplace.
have like a medium bluish gray on the walls. Some of the other rooms. I wonder if we're on the same we're on the same
I
project.
don't.
Yeah. This one it's called Traditional Meets Modern. University City is underneath it. Probably in your portfolio. Let's see, the second row to the right.
Hang on a minute. I got to get into there.
We can pick another one. It just stood out for
Well,
me.
that's a really cool one. If I'm almost there.
Yeah, it's very different. Very different the way it looks.
Okay. Yeah, I was totally on the wrong room. Okay. So I have two University City projects.
Ah, okay.
So this one, yeah, it was a total redo of the space. If you see the room through the doorway there, that's all orange. So
Yes.
that is a sunroom, and we painted the walls orange. Everything, it's like a total orange room, and it's so alive. And then the living room, which you walk into, is like a gray blue on the walls and more contemporary. It's a very traditional home. Has some beautiful arched doorways with stained glass in them, but the couple is more contemporary. So we kind of mixed the two together.
Yeah, why would they use that type of door? I mean, it's one thing with it, it's an archway, but
Mhm.
there's actually doors on it that swing
Right.
halfway with the same shape. What's going
Yeah, so that might have actually been an exterior door to begin with, where the sunroom was added on, or it might have been a porch, and so they had to have doors between it, and
Ah,
then they turned it into a four-season room later on. I'm not aware of exactly how that started, but yeah, those are beautiful doors.
yeah, really, really are. Yeah, I didn't even think of that could have been an add-on. Huh.
Mhm.
Yeah. What's your favorite room, Marcia, to
I
work in?
I don't have a favorite room. I love them all. The reason being, if I was only like a kitchen and bath designer, which I love doing all those, I would be bored to death if that's all I got to do. I have to have that variation of doing them all. So yeah, they all have their wonderful aspects.
And I got you on that. It's almost like your babies. You know, you had children.
Yeah,
It's hard to say
yeah.
which one is your favorite. That could vary from time to time, depending
And
on,
yeah, if I
you know,
do too many of one thing, then it's not my favorite anymore.
yeah. But if somebody says, "Hey, I want to start with the kitchen," or "Hey, I want to start with the bedroom," doesn't matter to you. You like them all.
Doesn't matter. Yeah. The only thing I talk with to begin with is you need to tell me everything that you want to do in this home, even if it's part of your 5-year plan, because there may be something that you think you don't want to do right now. But if we don't do it now, we're going to end up having to rip something out when we do the room that you want to do now. So it
Gotcha.
all has to be in a certain order.
So function is key.
Function is definitely key. Yes.
Why don't you take us
Function
through?
has to come first, but it can't just function. No one wants it just to function. It has to look good too. So you have to do that. Marry the two together.
Why don't we start the process? You know, I'm going to hire you. You're going to find
Mhm.
out, what I'm looking for, what makes me tick design wise. What are some of the things you might ask me?
So when I first get into your home, that's what I start talking about is I want you to walk me through your house, tell me what you like, what you don't like, what you want to accomplish with your home. How do you live in this room? Like if it's a living room, is this where you watch TV and it's the family hangout, or is it your formal living room? Do you eat dinner in the dining room all the time, or do you have another place and the dining room is just for company? So I need to know all those ways that those rooms function in order to decide what we need to do in the room.
And then next, do you ask what colors I like, what I'm thinking in terms of type of design that I like?
I do need to know what type of design you like, whether you lean contemporary or traditional. And people all usually just start in and tell me all those things. I hate pink. I don't want any of that in my house, but I love contemporary design. But I've got some of these pieces that were family heirlooms, so I want to keep them. They just blab on and on about all of those things. So I don't, with most people, I don't have to ask very much. But yeah, I need to have all of those details. And then I immediately start in my mind getting, it just kind of comes to me what we need to do. It's all about, it's not just about what you want out of the house, it's what the house needs too. The house talks to me about what it needs.
It's so funny, and I want to address that in just a moment. It's so funny that you said, pink. When I moved into the house that I sold, and I was there about like 8 years, something like that. They had a small fire, but they redid everything. So it was a brand new kitchen, re-sheet rocked a lot of walls, painted. I walked in to bright teal and hot pink rooms. Not even kidding. Not my thing. Not my thing.
Yeah.
So I immediately hired somebody to come in and paint because it was just, I needed it done right away. And I like doing a lot of stuff myself. I just didn't even have the time. But then there's those colors that you find. I wanted a certain yellowy golden color for the home office, and I was going to use that in the bedroom, master bedroom. And I could never nail the color. Like I would get samples, I'd put them on the wall, try this, try that. Even went to like texture. I forget what they used to call that, faux paint. I forget what it was. Made that attempt. I gave up and made them just a light gray till I walked in somebody's house and I saw a color and I'm like, that's it. What is that? Chesterfield buff. Would never forget it. But some colors are hard to figure out. And that's where then I, pivot to a designer because color. All I'm doing is buying cans of paint and throwing them up on the wall and then eventually throwing them out. Do you find it's a challenge to find the right color for somebody?
I think it's a challenge for homeowners to try and do that on their own because you immediately gravitate towards what you like.
Yeah.
I love yellow, but you don't have the background and experience to figure out what kind of yellow works in that room with your lighting and the rest of your furniture and blah, blah, blah. Yep. So I love figuring out that perfect color, but everybody wants to know up front, well, what color would you put on the walls in here? And I say, I don't even think about the color of the walls until I've chosen everything else for the room. Paint is one of the first things that goes into the room, but it's the last thing I choose because I want that paint color to coordinate with everything else that we've chosen for the room. There's a million paint colors, so it's very easy for me to choose that last. But if I try and choose it first, then I can't find a sofa fabric or a piece of artwork or whatever that goes with that paint color we chose.
I can't believe I never thought of that. This is why you do what you
Nobody
do.
Nobody ever does.
Right. So it's so reasonable because there's only going to be so many fabrics and colors of sofas. But meanwhile, and if you can't find the color that you're looking for, you can mix it. There's so many different ways to, even if you'd say, thinks it needs a little bit more royal blue in there, we'll just mix it. No problem. You can't call up the furniture manufacturer and say, hey, by the way, we put the paint on the wall and, the color on the sofa. Yeah. Make it a little more blue for me, please. And when are you going to deliver that? Yeah, that's not going to happen. Well, never even thought of that. Well, that's why you're a designer. What about the energy in a room? Do you consider that? Is that something on your radar? The way the energy, somebody once told me, you can't have clutter here, there, and everywhere, boxes, you maybe in transition, whatever it might be, but you are blocking the flow of energy going through that room.
Totally true.
Yeah, tell me.
So feng shui is a practice that I totally agree with. I am not a feng shui practitioner. That takes years and lots of knowledge that I don't have. But one of the easiest places for me to do feng shui is the primary bedroom. And they say, don't have anything under your bed because that blocks the flow of energy under your bed. So no under the bed boxes that store your blankets or anything like that. Nothing under your bed. So yes, energy can be blocked, and energy is very important. And it's important to know what the client needs from that room, because I might try and make the energy very alive when what they need is peace and calm from that room. My home is decorated much differently than my office, because when I go home, I need to relax and be peace and rejuvenate, as opposed to when I'm in the office, I need to be energized and up and on it constantly.
Wow. These little nuances, the stuff under the bed. Never heard that. And this house I was in had stuff under the bed. In my current situation, there's nothing under the bed.
There you go.
It is
good
the
energy.
same bed. Yes. Oh, well, you're talking to somebody who regularly sages and such.
There you go. And that's awesome.
Yeah. But I don't have an open window, and you're supposed to have an open window, or at least, an open door for the energy to go out. I digress.
Yes.
Yes. We got so much to talk about. Want to talk about trends moving forward and lots more. How do we connect with you, Marcia? If somebody's thinking about a redesign, a remodel, all of that. And this is not just interior design. This is design overall, correct?
Correct. This designs your life. Interior design affects your life so much more than anybody realizes. So what I'm doing is not just therapy for your home, but it's therapy for your life. When you have a well-designed home, it not only functions well, but the energy is good, and psychologically it's good for you. It affects everything about your life. Yeah.
I'm glad you said that, because the energy is I would hire somebody like you based on what you just said in terms of the energy. And maybe many designers get it. I don't know that all do. You're one of the few that I've heard that actually talk about that. And I think it's key. We're all energy. Every object, those file cabinets in the background, those plants have a certain energy imprint, as we do, and they all have to all work together. What's your website? What's the best way to find you?
MarciaMooreDesign.com, and Marcia is spelled Marcia, the correct way to spell Marcia. Moore, Moore, design.com.
Excellent. And a free consultation you offer?
I do offer a free initial consultation, half hour, 45 minutes. Sometimes we can get that accomplished over the phone. Sometimes it's meeting in your home. And then I have a contract that I go over with you, and we sign that, do a deposit, and we get started.
Excellent. Fantastic talking with you today. Really was.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
I love your energy. And I'm going to point out the address on your website is Bland Avenue.
Isn't that awful?
You're anything but. You're anything but.
Yeah, it was an awesome location for us. A great home. That's commercial house, but it is a house. But yeah, the address couldn't be worse.
You know what? I would even look at those numbers in terms of numerology. If you figured them out, maybe it's a little, I don't have time to do that, but at this moment, but there probably is something very positive there. And Bland is just a word. Bland Drive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Again, great talking with you, and lots to talk about next time we get together. I'm looking forward to it. Thanks again.
Me too. Thank you.
We'll be right back. Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Hey, Dad, how do airplanes fly? What's in this box? Can I touch this? Where does sand come from? Is this tree good for climbing? What happens if I mix these two things together? How are babies made? What does this thing do?
Kids are curious about everything, including guns. Talking to them about gun safety in your home is a good first step, but you can do more. Always keep your guns locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition. Storing your guns securely is the best way to prevent family fire, including unintentional shootings. For more information on safe gun storage and ways to keep your family safe, visit endfamilyfire.org. That's endfamilyfire.org.
What do we keep in the attic? What's this thing called? Can I ride my bike backwards?
Like I said, kids are curious. It's up to us to keep them safe. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.